Hi, my name's Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on the Power Platform based on my book, Creating Business Applications with Microsoft 365. So this is part two of a series where in the first one we looked at Microsoft Forms going to SharePoint, and in this one we're going to focus on Power BI. But let me give you a quick review in case you didn't see the previous one. So we have a form, we're calling it the Microsoft 365 Copilot feedback form, and it's got some yes/no questions and some numeric, and then some multiple response of the applications that they used or they liked, and then it had a screen capture file upload capability. And then I did a couple of those. We wrote the flow in the last video, so I won't look at it, but you can see since I did the first video about 40 minutes ago, and the most recent just a minute ago. And what it looks like is this list. So I put a couple of these ones I did in the last video, and I did some music people pretending they were answering the questions, and gives us JSON data that we're going to deal with, and it has attachment. I only did the attachments on the first two, with the idea that we can come back to forms and get the attachments if we wanted to. So let's switch over to Power BI. Oh, and actually before I do that, let me grab this URL. I'm going to need that URL inside Power BI. So I'm in Power BI Desktop, and first thing I'm going to do is get data and go to more and type in SharePoint. And we can use either SharePoint Online List or SharePoint List. And I want the site URL. I always like to use the newest thing, so I'll say 2.0 here. It does a little bit better job with some of the not truncating the column names and things like that. And then it shows me all the lists that I have there. I'm going to pick that M365 Copilot one. There we go. It's loading that up. All right, and you can see it's gotten my columns and so forth, so not too bad. But what I usually like to do first is go over to transform data. And you might remember I used camel casing for the column name, so I'll go through and rename most of those. So plus email, I'll just say user here, and these are going to be column names, so I'll just change these a little bit. Our ethical guidelines, comprehensive. I don't want to put question marks, so oops, is ethical testing. Oops, sorry, a little fumble fingered there. Thorough. And we're going to pivot these anyway in a minute, but it still makes sense to rename them because these are effectively going to be our values, and then we'll have a yes no next to it. So I'll just say adheres to ethical guidelines. Recommend based on ethical practices. Is, whoops, got it. Ethical testing transparent. Let me say overall rating. One thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and change the type while I'm here. So I know it's a number, so I might as well say, and I know it's a whole number. And that'll help us get averages and things like that. So we'll just say impact on productivity. Again, change that to whole numbers. And if you're new to Power BI, you may not know that this will happen every single time. So we don't have to change, we only have to do this once, and every time it refreshes, it'll update the data and do all these changes that we're doing now. So we'll just say effectiveness of training. And we could rename them inside the visualization, but then we have to do it every visualization. So if we do it here, we only have to do it once. So again, I'll rename that. Minutes saved per day. Again, that'll be a whole number. And then we've got these JSON, which we'll deal with in a minute, but for now let's just rename the column. So it's the applications used. And I do understand that if I hadn't put the spaces, or if I had put the spaces in SharePoint, I wouldn't have to rename these here, but I kind of like, for working with Power Apps and everything, it's just a lot more convenient if we don't put spaces in there. So I don't mind the extra time to put that in there. And has attachments that figure that out. It was true or false. So again, I'll just, maybe I'll put there a question mark. Excellent. All right. So let's go at, one thing I often like to do is a custom column. So let's just go ahead and add that while we're at it. And that helps us more if we're doing it over time. So I'll just say days since submission. And a little formula. So we'll say date time dot from date time local now. So that's effectively like the today function minus, there should be the created. Here we go, and you see it's just minutes, and then you want to change this type to whole number. So it's 0 for now, but as we go, we can see like what, maybe we're doing it, what's 30 days back versus 10 days or whatever. So I typically like to do that. All right, so we can do things in order, but let's first look at how do we deal with this yes, no data. So let's go scroll back over, because what I really want is a nice stack chart, and I want, you know, these to basically be like rows, you know, so the one row says, are ethical guidelines comprehensive? And the answer is yes. And so what we do is we highlight all these yes, no columns like that. And then we right click and say unpivot only selected columns. And then you see what that did. It basically split out all our things separately. So we're going to be splitting stuff for the JSON anyway. So it gave us one column that's the attribute and the other one's the value. So rather than attribute, I'll rename that. Whoops, I've got to select just that. So I'll say setting. Maybe setting's not right. Maybe I'll just say Copilot question. And then value I'll leave alone. In the example I took this from, we had a thing, was it expected? You know, so the expected value, if it was the expected value, it would be yes. If it wasn't the expected, it'd be no. And so we changed this to say matched expected value. But that should do it. So that's the first thing that we want to do. And then the second one we want to do is deal with that JSON data, because if we go to summarize that, let's go see if I can find that again, because I put that at the end. So here's the JSON data. No, it's already been split out, because every time we answered a question, basically every single one had like 5 new rows. But we want to split it out again, because if we do like a pie chart, we're going to get, like, notice Copilot Chat is in this one and this one. But we'd have one bar that said Copilot Chat, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Teams, and Word, and then another slice that says Copilot Chat, Excel, and OneNote. And we don't want that. We want all the Copilot Chats, all the Excels together, and so forth. So what we do is we go to Transform, and I'll select the column, and we're going to say Parse JSON. And then it turned it into a list. And then we come in here, whoops, don't right click, we click, and we say expand to new rows. So notice how it made Copilot Chat, Excel, and all that on its own. And so, we've gone from 9 answers and we're all the way down to, 60 or something by now. But we got to do this on the most effective as well. So we say parse JSON, and again, click it, expand to new rows. And that's pretty much it. So let's take a look now and see what it looks like. So we say close and apply. So notice that 460 rows by the time we did all that. So let's go ahead and save this. And I'll just save it in Documents. Oh yeah, wherever it's saving is fine. We'll call it Video Copilot Power BI. Here we go. And so what do we do next? Oops. So I always like to start with the upper right. You've seen in my other videos, even though it's been a little while since I did a Power BI one. So this is a new card. And what's great about SharePoint content is we already have a primary key for the ID. So what's important though is notice that the count is 460, but what we want to do is we want to say count distinct. So we only have 6 responses, and that's right. So we want to rename this, and I'll put that in the clipboard. So rather than say count of ID, I'll say number of responses. Like that. I don't actually love that new one. I think I might use the old card. I don't really like that view of that one. Let's use the old one. Let's do it again, but I already have it in the clipboard, so we'll say count distinct, and I'll rename, paste that in so it doesn't take too long. Do it. That looks a little bit better. I'll make that a little bit higher. And then what I usually like to do is go ahead and put a table at the bottom. Oh, except, yeah, now that we've done that, though, we can't really use the table. We have to use the matrix, which isn't really that great. Yeah, I was actually looking at my notes, but the matrix kind of expands. It's like a pivot table, which in this case I don't really love, but we can get away with that if we don't put any of the data that got changed. In other words, that any of the data that got split out. So let's try that. So we'll just put the email or the user And then we'll put the questions that we wanted, so let's see, let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, actually we can put the has attachments in there, and let's see, let's just put the stuff that didn't get set up. So like the minutes saved per day, and I don't want to sum those. I won't summarize them like that. And I'll put the overall rating. Again, I don't want to summarize it. And I'll put the one about training. Oh yeah, impact on productivity. Again, I don't want to summarize it. And oh yeah, effectiveness of training. There we go. I'll do some more stuff that's kind of cool further on, but you kind of get the idea. Make that a little bit wider, like that. All right, let's see if we can deal with that yes/no data. So I'm going to put a stacked chart on there. We'll see if we can put it maybe here. And what I want to do on the x-axis is put our number of responses again. We'll do count distinct. Oops. Yeah, and then we'll rename. See if I still got that in the clipboard. Yep. And then I'll put the Copilot question. Oops, where'd it go? I'll find the y-axis here. There it was. And then I'll put the value in as the legend. There we go. Now it's not quite what we want yet, because I want to, let me get rid of this filter for now, make it a little bit bigger. Is I want to go ahead and make the yes green and the y no, or and the no red or whatever. So let's see if we can find the bars. So I want the no. Just find in here something kind of on the reddish side like that. And then we'll change the yes. Something in the green. Oops, a little too light. There we go. Something like that. And then I can also put on data labels as well, if I can find that. There we go, so we can see how many it is. And then it looks, I need to go a little taller so I get them all. There we go. Like that. All right, so that looks pretty decent. Let me go ahead and save that. Now let's talk a little bit about our numeric data. Okay, so we have, if we go back to our form, we have the overall rating, the minutes saved, the impact on productivity, and the effectiveness of training. So it's kind of nice if we look at the average of that. And so that's a good use of a measure. So I'm going to say new measure. So we'll just say average minutes saved. Now this is the DAX language, which is a little bit different than the Power M that we use with that date, time, local now and stuff. But it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to take the average function, and then it gives me on my column. So I just need to say minutes saved per day, like that, and press return. So it'll give me the little measure setup. So let's do another measure, and I'll say average rating. This is overall rating, or maybe I just called it, yeah. Oops, actually that one said I didn't actually want to do the average A. I think it's about the same thing, but I want to be consistent with all of them. There we go. And let's see, average minutes. We need the average productivity. And let's see, we'll do average training effectiveness. What I like about this is that it's in context. So as we start slicing and dicing, we can see what the averages do. Effectiveness of training. There we go. All right, so let me see if I can copy. I'm going to make this card a little not as big because I got to put 4 of them in there. All right, so let's put the rating there. We can see the measures because they have that special thing. So see where it says average rating, then I pick this one, and I'll do minutes saved per day. And it's doing the same order. We'll say average productivity and effectiveness of training. Oh, that one's got a problem. Let's see what it says. Oh, looks like I didn't got a problem with the type of column it is. That's interesting. So that tells me I need to go back to transform data. I must have missed that one. Looks like it's opening over here. Let me bring it over. It says it's whole number. Maybe I have a problem in the DAX thing. So let's go look at the measure. Oh, I picked the wrong one, didn't I? You guys probably saw that when I did it. So let's try it again. Average effectiveness of training. There we go. Looks like it averaged right out to 4 there. All right. So we can probably fit some more slicers and stuff, but let's see if I can get in some pie charts to kind of show you the effect of the of splitting out all the Microsoft 365 types here. So let's see if we can do that. So what we want to do here is we want to, our values will be our number of items. So we'll count distinct, remember. And let's see if that's still on the clipboard or not. Nope. Number of responses. And then what we want to do for our details is first do applicate the ones moved. Whoops, I got to scroll down a little bit. There we go. So see how Copilot Chat and so forth has its own. Notice if I roll down, I say, of the people who use Copilot Chat, what happened with all our averages? Or same with Excel or OneNote and so forth. So that's kind of nice. And then let's do another pie chart. Get similar size. And we'll do the same kind of thing. So we'll say values, count distinct, rename, number of responses, and then we'll take the other one. Oops. So these are the ones that are the most effective. And again, we can look down and say, okay, what happened if, you know, we pick teams or whatever. And we could probably do some charts also, like what was the setting with the number of people who did ratings. So maybe I'll do one more of those. So I'll just see if I can fit one more pie chart in. And we'll do the overall rating. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. Overall rating should be in detail. Whoops. Should be in details, and then we'll do the ID as the values. Again, notice, watch when I change from count to count distinct, because now it depends on how many things they answered. We kind of weighted it more if they answered more of the applications. But when I go to count distinct, it kind of fixes that. So it kind of shows us our ratings. And we could change so that green is a high rating and red's a bad rating and that kind of thing. But don't want this video being any longer than we need it to be. So let me go back to this for a minute, because I didn't really use our days. Can get a slicer as well, but we'll put that in here, kind of down at the bottom. Again, I don't want to summarize it. Days since submission, so that's another thing we could do. And then, you know, we could do more slicers, so I'll just do one because we didn't do a single slicer in this particular one. So any of these slicers, we could have done a days where we have a little slider. Oh, and I do want to change that as well, these how they interact with each other. So we got two more things to cover. So let me that's one thing I hate about these is trying to get rid of those after they're filtering down. So let's just do one slicer. Let me find it. Put it like right over here. And I'll just put the most helpful application, or most used, or most helpful applications. And then I like to change it. It takes up too much space, so we can make it a drop down like that. And one thing that's kind of cool, it's not obvious how to do it here. Oh, options style says it moved. It's funny since I did that last format. Oh, we did get this style. I was looking for where you can set it to search. You have to hit the 3 dots. I'm not seeing it right now, so I won't take the time here. But notice now we could show us everything on here that was Excel and so forth. All right, so we could do lots of other slicers, but that'll show you how to do it. Now, the other thing I like is I typically like for one visualization to filter all the rest, as opposed to notice what happens right now if I click here and see how it tries to show these highlights of what meets, and to me that just it doesn't mean anything to me. I find it not very helpful. What I like it to do is if I click on that, I want everything else filtered. So what you want to do is click on each one and go to data. Where is it? Move it around every time I'm looking for it. I'll have to look. I'll pause for a minute, see if I can find it. Didn't take long. It was on the format. So I want to click Edit Interactions here. And notice what happens. So you got to kind of look for it. But this is filter versus the default is highlight. So I just like to change everything to highlight. And you just click on each one. So now I click on this one. But you got to really watch because stuff gets on top of them. So you got to move it around. So I click on this one. Then I change it to filter, change it to filter. I'm not sure where this one, so I'll have to make it, oops, make it further down. There you go. So now I can see it. So I filter, click this one, it's filter, click that one, and I filter, 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 and then I click this one. Again, change all the, oops. Hard to see it. There we go. Filter, filter. All right, let me bring these back up. This one I don't even really need to bring back. All right, let's look at it now. So if I click on PowerPoint, then it will filter all the rest of those. Or if I click on everybody who got a number 3 rating, then it shows them which applications they found most effective, which ones they used, and so forth. If I clicked on somebody who said no on something, then it shows me what they answered and also changes all the application stuffs up here. All right, so let's finish off. Been talking for a little while, but might as well finish the story, so we'll just call it Copilot Testing. Let me save it again, because obviously it doesn't do you any good till you go ahead and publish it. So if you've got shared workspaces, you can do them there. Here I just have my workspace. So it's going to publish it up there. The advantage of the shared workspace, of course, is that you can just add people to the workspace. You don't have to then go share the individual reports with them. So what we want to do is when we publish that, we just want to go set up the scheduled refresh. So let me find the changes every time we come in. I think it's under one leg now. There we go. When we come over to settings, and I want to come down to the credentials. So you want to come down and edit the credentials, set it to OAuth 2. I usually set it to organizational. I don't know if there's another one we need to do. I got pick my credentials. And by the way, if you take over somebody else's visualization, you'll have to do that as well. And now that we do that, the time zone is set up. So I can set up a refresh, add maybe every day at 7 a.m. and apply. And then as I get more things coming in, it will update every day, and it'll be no more than a day old, all your data. All right, so appreciate the times. Hopefully there's some elements of Power BI that you were either new or that you wanted to see again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, have a great day.